Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, a weekly show helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. Today, episode 305, Ease and Grace. And now, Experience of the Soul.
Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm here today in my home studio with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Sean. Today is Monday, April 22nd, and this is episode 305 of Experience of the Soul, Ease and Grace.
We're having a good time, aren't we, Sean?
I'm loving every second of it. I got to tell you, I'm having so much fun.
I know. Well, I love how much we giggle.
Yeah.
I love how much we giggle. Even on our text messages, we're always putting smileys. And it's interesting that we're doing this show today, Ease and Grace, because that's what we're experiencing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All of these pieces have just come together so perfectly. I mean, it just feels so like it's meant to be. You know, this is exactly where we're meant to be.
I totally agree. So friends, to our listeners, welcome. We're glad you're with us. And, I want to start out by saying I have an affirmation I'm working with today with this topic on ease and grace, which is I go forward with grace. I go forward with grace. So I want you, as you listen today, to repeat that as a mantra, because our world has made everything so complicated. It's like, I just want to go, it's like life does not have to be this complicated. And as Sean and I were talking earlier, I already had the show title, but the ideas that we both have, the new things we want to bring to the channel, those are just, arising out of the joy and out of the consciousness of our own spiritual journey. And friends, this is what we want, right, John? I mean, this is
Absolutely.
what we're feeling and knowing. And I want to say to our listeners, give us feedback. If you're really feeling this, or if there's something you're really seeing, we're going to really include that in our prayer process. And like this morning, Sean and I we were both thinking about other shows, and I mentioned a idea. He's already had a similar idea. So this is how we know we're in the flow of God's good for us. The ideas flow. There's a lot of ease. There's a lot of grace. If there's a mistake, somebody else picks it up. Nobody has to be wrong. We support one another. We love one another through life. And this is the idea of today's show, right? I go forward with grace. But Sean, remind me of what last week's show title is for our listeners too, so we can kind of tie that in, because I think it was about, respecting, honoring your process.
Yes. Last week's show was respect yourself and your boundaries.
Oh, yes. Oh, that. Yeah.
Oh, those things.
Okay. Yeah, right. Well, I wanted to tie that in, friends. Again, welcome to the show. It is Monday, April 22nd. I can't believe April is this far gone. I mean, this has been a busy time and a wonderful time, but I hope you've been working with the ideas in the last show. It delights me to no end when people reach out and say, oh my gosh, did I need that reminder to respect myself and my boundaries? I'd let some of those boundaries go. And friends, I work with people all around the country, many of whom are deep empaths. They're helpers. Some are nurses, some are therapists, some are physical therapists. And so often, they say to me, I know this, and I need you to remind me. And I say, I understand. I have someone remind me as well. I do my own work with somebody every couple of weeks to keep me on track. So as you start respecting yourself and your boundaries, something is going to come forward. And what comes forward is this connection with the divine. And we want to really start there this week. I want to really start there this week, because in our world today, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anger. I talk a lot about that. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of I'm right and you're wrong. And ease and grace, frankly, in the world at large, you can't really find. And there's a reason for that. Ease and grace comes from a connection with the divine. Ease and grace comes from a connection with the divine. So, if I had a whiteboard here, I would make a line in the middle of the board, and on the bottom, I would write relative, and on the top, I would write absolute. And our world lives in the relative, what we call, in the spiritual language, we call third dimension consciousness. Up, down, right, wrong, black, white. No, I'm not saying there's not right and wrong or black and white, but what I'm saying is that the mystics have called third dimension the land of the opposites. And, the great poet Rumi has a poem that says, out beyond the ideas of right and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. That field is the field of infinite possibility. It is the field of Christ consciousness. It is the field of oneness, this understanding that we are all connected, that we are all intended to be connected, supported, and loved. And that even in places that we disagree on the third dimension, fourth dimensionally, in other words, in the higher consciousness, we are one. We are one. And so you can see how if my attention, I'll use myself for example, if my attention is only on what's wrong, my attention is on I'm right and you're wrong, then I'm living from the limited, what we might call ego or personality or third dimension consciousness. We're living in the place where somebody has to be wrong. And if somebody has to be wrong, then I have to be right. Then you become a them and I become an us, and the division is there and you can never get back to it. So what I'm telling you is, and I want to be really clear about my words with this, in that when we only live from the personality, life does not have ease and grace. Life is full of drama. It's full of fear. It's full of addiction. It's full of so much fear, so much lack. There's never enough. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. There's a lack of guidance. There's a lack of inner compass. When we live from personality, there is no ease or grace. There's force. There's worry. There's anxiety. There's depression. There's fear beyond fear. So I know I'm repeating myself. That's on purpose because I want you to just feel the energy of those words. Fear, anxiety, worry, anger, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. That does not feel good. And as an entire culture, not only in America anymore, it's around the world, there is this idea that if I make you wrong, I feel better about myself in the short term. So what I want to do, where I want to live from, is a different place in consciousness. I want to live from the Christ consciousness. I want to live from fourth dimension. That's where Jesus lived. We call it the Christ consciousness because Jesus so embodied this awareness and this oneness with God. And even Jesus said, it is not I, but the Father within me that does the work. So there's also a great humility to this walk. There's a great humility to knowing, experiencing, and living from the Christ consciousness. But this is our goal. This is our aim, I might say, to live from the place of the Christ. I go forward with grace. Remember, this is our affirmation. I go forward with grace. I go forward with grace. And learning to access this place of peace, this place of grace, this fourth dimension consciousness is the key to life being real. It's the key to life being full of joy. It's the key to life being full of ease and grace. And I wanted to talk about this today because so much of what I talk about is soul work. And I use that word work. Well, I do that because it is work so much of the time. And it's easy to forget the joy and the ease that living from the Christ consciousness brings us. But what I've noticed with myself and with the people I serve, in ministry or in my one-on-one clients is that the people that start to, on a daily basis, touch in with this energy, start to go, oh, you know what? Life is better. Life is easier. When I'm touching into the divine in me, I'm realizing the divine is all around me. I feel at home in myself. I feel as if I can trust my next steps. I feel like I can move forward with grace, knowing that even if I make a mistake, the universe is going to support me. Life is easier when you touch in with the divine. Yes, on a daily basis. On a daily basis. So say to yourself a couple times right now, I go forward with grace. I just want us to keep coming back to that. I go forward with grace. I go forward with grace. So many of us learned when we were youngsters that there were certain ways to get our needs met. And so often my ministry kind of intersects between psychology and spirituality. And this is one of those days. We're going to do even more topics like this that are deeper. There's going to be a show coming up later, by the way, called Heal Your Trauma. And we're going to look at it both psychologically and spiritually. But what I wanted to say about this today is most of us learned to get our needs met at the level of the personality. Well, this is not wrong. This is what we all have to do as humans. There's none of us that gets out of this. We all have a personality, myself included. And we often get very attached to our personality. And why is that? Well, because the personality is what helped us get love. It's what helped us get our needs met at an early stage of development. Sometimes the need is so strong from the soul. Sometimes it even starts in the womb when it's pre-verbal. And there's a lot of research about that, by the way. And it's so interesting to know that as we grow and develop, some of the patterns we picked up, the reason they're hard to name is because they literally came into our DNA pre-verbal, but pre-birth even. So think about that as we're seeking to live a spiritual life. Some of the pieces that we need to heal are very, very deep. So what I started to say is we live from the level of the personality because it's what we know. And depending on our family system, depending on the level of function or dysfunction in the family system, that personality was developed to get our needs met in that particular system. But when we project that out onto the world, we see sometimes that personality doesn't work anymore. And that's then what guides us to the spiritual journey to seek a higher way of being. So what I'm speaking of today is moving out of the personality and into the soul of you. And I'm not saying you have to destroy the personality, but I'm saying it has to be in its proper place. It has to be in its proper place, and it has to be tempered. It has to be ruled by the Christ consciousness. Our goal, I'll say again, is to move out of the personality and into the soul of you. And that is what brings ease and grace. I've worked with many people for years now, and what I notice about people's journey, and they will say to me, compared to where I was a year ago or 2 years ago, what I notice in my journey is I feel like there's more grace. I'm intending to do good. I'm intending to live a spiritual life. And sometimes the universe sends me a gift. I just feel like God is with me. God is supporting me, and God is providing me with these new ideas. I say that's absolutely true. You've heard me say before that any relationship to be successful needs time, attention, and energy, right? It's true with the people we know and love. It's true with our friendships. It's true with our partners, our spouses. Well, it's also true with your relationship with the divine. That relationship needs your time, attention, and energy. And there were a couple months ago where I was finding myself very busy. I was finding myself out of the flow. I was finding myself with what I always called a short fuse, kind of, if my son didn't do something, Josh, and he looked at me one day and said, "Mama, are you okay?" And that snapped me back into, oh my goodness, no, I'm not okay. I realized, oh, you know what? I have not had a deep meditation for the last 3 days. And if I don't have a deep meditation for 3 days, something is off, and I'm not going to be in ease and grace. I'm going to go back to my personality. I'm going to go back to the comfort zone of do it my way, like we all do. So that ease and grace, how you can know you're connected is you're experiencing ease and grace on a regular basis. That's how you know you're connected. So I want to talk a little bit about the difference between the absolute versus the relative. I said that a little bit earlier, and I wonder if there's a way in the future to get a whiteboard on here to talk about it, or maybe Sean can just put it up, the ideas of relative versus absolute. I want you to get the idea that at the same time, all the time, there's both realities going on. See, if you haven't done any spiritual work, this is going to sound crazy. If you've done spiritual work, you're going to 100% understand what I'm talking about. So the relative is this third dimension, reality and consciousness, the land of the opposites that I mentioned earlier. Up, down, right, wrong, black, white, us, them. This is a very dualistic consciousness. And the problem with third dimension consciousness is it's rooted in the limited aspect of the mind and not the soul. And so sometimes you can try to solve a problem, for instance, in the relative, and you might in the short term solve the problem, but long term, you've just created more work for yourself, or long term, you've created a bad investment. But because you weren't listening to spirit, because you weren't being guided, because you weren't living from the fourth dimension of ease and grace, you forced something, you pushed it through. And it might look good in the short term, but you find in the long term, this is not a good decision. So this is what happens when we live at the level of the relative. And so what we're seeking to do as souls on the journey is living from the place of Christ consciousness, a fourth dimension consciousness of the absolute level, where we can even feel something in the relative. Let's say we're feeling like there's not enough. And a good one that we can all relate to right now with things being so expensive is it feels like there's not enough money. Okay. On the relative level, you might look at your bank account and say, oh my gosh, how is there only $3.69 on my checking account? Oh my gosh. On the relative level, is it true that there's only $3.69 in your checking account? That may be. What is true on the absolute level? Much more is available to you, because all good comes from this level, including money, including love, including everything you need, comes from this absolute level. So when we are feeling this tension in the relative level, the work is to go to the absolute level through times of meditation, through deep breathing, through being outside on a nature walk, through singing spiritual songs, whatever connects us to the absolute. And interestingly, you can have $3.69 in your checking account. If you're connected to the absolute, there is going to be a great deal of ease. There's going to be a great deal of grace, and there's going to be a great deal of trust about what do I do next to move what's happening in the relative to the absolute. In other words, how do I bring plenty into my place of lack? And that cannot be done only on the relative level. Now, I have a friend that teaches, and she will often say, don't just pray, go out and get a job. And I agree. You've got to work, you've got to bring in money, you've got to do your part of the work. But the consciousness around that work, the consciousness around that there is enough for you, helps bring the right work, the right people, the right situations into your life and world. And so, if there's a place that we're not feeling ease and grace, what we want to do is, it's like we have to right the relationship. It's like there's third dimension over here and we see spirit over here. And what we want to do is bring those two in alignment. We want to view the relative through the absolute or through the soul so that we are seeing things rightly. There is a reality beyond the third dimension. There absolutely is. In this podcast, we've been going, it's been almost 6 years, and we are on the air because of the generosity of our listeners. That said, if we need money in the bank to pay for these shows, I am meditating, I am trusting, I am asking God next steps. As we move forward, the money comes. I move forward with ease and grace. The money comes to support the next 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. And that's why we don't do campaigns all the time. It's why we don't have sponsors all the time. We used to have sponsors back in the day, and we decided that was interrupting the spiritual flow of the show. And somebody said to me, well, aren't you afraid if you don't do sponsors that you're going to lose money? I said, well, it is a risk, but it's a calculated risk, because my guidance to let go of sponsors and ask our listeners who are benefiting from the show to give us a special financial gift if they feel spiritually fed. And that has happened. That has continued to happen moving forward. And it's how we've been on the show, or on the air rather, almost 6 years. And it will be for sure over 6 years that we will be on the air. I don't doubt it at all. We're just in prayer about what is our next campaign going to look like. And by campaign, I mean, how do we want to bring it forward to our listeners? It's about time again to give a gift if you value this. And we trust. If for some reason the money is not there, the show does not continue. Am I scared about that? Not at all. I want to do as God guides. I want to do as God leads. I want to live from a place of ease and grace. I'm not going to try to convince or fear of missing out or use all these marketing techniques that make people give from a place of lack, make people give from a place of fear. I want any giving that comes into the show to be from the heart, from the soul, from your goodness. I want to live from a place of ease and grace. And friends, so far, we have been so supported on this show. So I'm not asking for anything. I'm giving this as an example that when you trust at a high level, when you are living from this higher energy, the universe informs you, God himself, herself, your angels, your guides will inform, they will help, they will support. So the work becomes moving back into alignment. So it's like, to go forward with grace, I must align myself with spirit. To go forward with grace, I must align myself with spirit. I repeated that so you could get that in your mind. To go forward with grace, I must align myself with spirit. And then we affirm that. I go forward with grace. To go forward with grace, I must align myself with the spirit. So I do that alignment work. I go forward with grace. I go forward with grace. And so I really want you to think very personally about your own journey and to think, where is the area I'm struggling? Am I struggling in relationship? Am I struggling with a son or daughter, or am I struggling, with a situation at the office? And I want you to, I'm going to go into a short little meditation here in a moment. And we're going to call that situation forth in our mind and then have you really see it rightly. I want you to be able to move out of seeing it from the relative and into the absolute. Or the scripture would say, we're not being in the world, but not of the world, right? So we want to see what the situation is. But what we're doing, we're going to be realigning our consciousness with the divine, realigning our consciousness with God himself, with the spirit of all that is. And then we're going to see grace moving into this situation, and we're going to wait for the guidance. We're going to wait for the direction. We're going to wait for this knowing of how to move forward with grace. Because if you're living at the level of the problem, all the great minds in history have told us this. Einstein, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi have said some version of, you can't solve a problem at the level of the problem. You have to bring in a higher idea, right? And so that's what we seek to do today, to live from this higher awareness, this fourth dimension consciousness, this place of the Christ, and to get proper perspective. You almost will be looking down on the problem. We're going to go back into that observer self, and I'll try to have that for you in the show notes, the link to the one on the observer self. It talks all about how to do that show. But that's what we're seeking to do, is view life from this higher perspective, from this place of the Christ, from this place of spirit that moves in and through our soul and our mind and then out into the world. I honestly believe, friends, that Spirit, God, Jesus the Christ, has good in mind for us. I know because when there was a need, when there was a healing need, Jesus solved that healing need. When it was time to pay taxes, Jesus paid taxes, taking a coin out of the mouth of the fish. When it was time to heal, Jesus was about healing. So I firmly believe God's will for you is good. God's will for me is good. That means that it is incumbent upon me, or the word I love, it behooves me to set some time aside every single day to move into this higher awareness. I've heard it said, Eric Butterworth, one of Unity's authors, said, God can do no more for you than God can do through you. And I believe that. I believe that God is always trying to bless us. I believe that God is always seeking to help us. But if our mind is rooted in the relative rather than the absolute, the place of God and the Christ consciousness, then that good cannot come to us or through us. And this is our goal. So remember that God can do no more for you than God can do through you. That's from the author Eric Butterworth, who taught us that. And it's a wonderful, wonderful idea to take into a time of meditation. So I want to encourage you that if you're driving or working, to pause and come back to this, maybe at bedtime or maybe in your morning spiritual routine, or a time where you can be uninterrupted. But we want to go into a time of meditation now. And I'm going to try turning out my light here. Hold on. So let's take a moment now and take a few deep breaths. So as you breathe, I just invite you to know that in this time you are loved, you are supported, you are blessed. And as you breathe, that you notice your body begins to become relaxed and still, and your mind releases thoughts. So for a few moments, just allow yourself to simply be, to rest, to be at peace. You might even imagine that at the space of the heart, you're being filled with light. And that the light of God, that true nature of who you really are, is filling your whole body, your mind, your soul. And as you breathe, it just expands into every part of you. Just imagine that this is your real self. This is who you really are. So as you rest in this place, I invite you to say out loud, I ask for spiritual help, support, guidance, and protection in the work I'm about to do. As you rest in this place, knowing you're safe, knowing you're loved, I want you to bring to mind the situation in your life that's giving you a little struggle right now that needs a little ease and grace. Just imagine it in your consciousness. There's nothing you need to do, just hold it there for a moment. As you hold this situation in mind, just invite the light of God to literally surround it, so that as you view this situation, you just literally see the light of God illuminating the situation. And we invite your angels, your spirit guides to be present as this important spiritual work is being done, that it's just literally being illuminated by the light of God. Just picture that, the light of God enfolding this whole situation. Breathe into seeing it this way. And ask this question, God, why is this here for me? Why is this here for me? After you receive this answer of why this is here for me, ask Spirit to work with you to remove any attachments, any fears. And we just invite in Archangel Michael to come and clear out any fear, any worry, any unnecessary holding on, any personality attachments. So Archangel Michael, please come and wash us clean of all these energies where we're holding on. That's energies of the personality. And just imagine that happening. Archangel Michael, who clears out obstacles, who clears out negative energies. Just imagine this happening in this situation. As this feels complete, imagine this white waterfall that's moving in and through you. It's like this white, clear, cleansing waterfall that's moving down your body, cleaning out any any energies that are still there, just being washed clean of any struggle or worry. Imagine this waterfall cleaning out, and this is a healing, cleansing waterfall. And as we do this work, we simply release into the light all that no longer serves us. Speak to any energies leaving now. I release you into the light with love, forgiveness, and blessing. Imagine any last negativity leaving, moving into the light, never to return. And now imagine being surrounded with the light of God, this new energy being protected, and this light of God moving into those places that were cleared out. Thinking about, what do I want to replace that with? Is it love? Is it joy? Is it peace? And just imagine soaking all that goodness into your body, into your mind, and into your soul. Just take all that goodness in. And now imagine that you are surrounded in golden armor. Gold was a gift brought to Jesus the Christ at his birth. This golden armor is a protection for you, not letting in any negativity, not letting in any old energy. And so from this place of connection, of knowing that our true self is protected, it is supported, it is blessed, we can now say with faith, I go forward with grace. So in this time of meditation, please know that you are being guided, you are being supported, and that if you ever want to return to the space of spiritual connection, you can do so at any time. You can use this meditation, you can do this on your own, but honor yourself, honor your space as you do this important work in consciousness. Honor this time, honor this space as you do this important work in consciousness. I go forward with grace. I bless you on the journey, dear friend. Many blessings.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. This podcast is made possible because of listeners and viewers just like you. If you would like to support the podcast with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head on over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Experience of the Soul podcast is copyright 2024 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved, and is produced by Sean Kilgore. A production of the Soulworks Group, Incorporated. Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.